Welcome to Let's Talk About the Book. Today we're looking at No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. This is one of those books that a lot of men discover at a very specific point in life. Usually it is not when everything is going well. It is often when a man feels frustrated, overlooked, rejected, resentful, or confused about why being good did not bring him the results he expected. He may have been loyal. He may have been helpful. He may have tried to keep peace. He may have avoided conflict. He may have done what he thought a good man was supposed to do. And yet somewhere inside he feels invisible. That is why this book connects with so many men. But today I want to review it honestly, because I do believe No More Mr. Nice Guy has real value. It gives language to approval-seeking hidden contracts, weak boundaries, and the way some men trade honesty for acceptance. But I also believe the book has limitations. And when I look at it through the lens of my own writings, books like Manhood 101, Becoming the Operator, and Frame Under Fire, I think the conversation has to go deeper. Because the goal is not simply for a man to stop being nice. The goal is for a man to become whole, honest, disciplined, emotionally governed, and grounded in a moral frame. That distinction matters. The strength of No More Mr. Nice Guy is that it exposes a pattern many men do not see in themselves. A man may believe he is being loving, patient, and giving, but underneath that behavior, he may be trying to buy approval. He may be saying yes when he means no. He may be avoiding truth because he fears rejection. He may be doing favors while secretly keeping score. He may be hoping that if he gives enough, sacrifices enough, and stays agreeable enough, then people will eventually reward him with love, respect, sex, appreciation, or loyalty. That is where the idea of the hidden contract becomes powerful. The hidden contract says, I will do this for you, and in return you should give me what I want, even if I never clearly say what I want. That is one of the most useful ideas in the book, because many men do not realize how much resentment is created by expectations they never voiced. They call it kindness, but it is not always clean kindness. Sometimes it is fear, sometimes it is control, sometimes it is emotional bargaining, sometimes it is a quiet attempt to earn safety. That is where the book does good work. It tells men, be honest, say what you want, recognize your needs. Stop pretending you are needless. Stop using niceness as a strategy. Stop hiding behind the role of the good guy. That message is valuable. But here's where I would add a criticism. The danger is that some men may read this book and think the problem is kindness itself. It is not. The problem is dishonest kindness. The problem is approval-based kindness. The problem is kindness used as a mask for fear, neediness, and resentment. A strong man can still be kind. A grounded man can still be generous. A masculine man can still be compassionate. In Manhood 101, I talk about values, responsibility, character, and legacy. A man does not become more masculine by becoming less decent. He becomes more masculine by becoming more truthful, more disciplined, and more aligned. So the issue is not nice versus not nice. The issue is whether the man is acting from strength or from fear. That is the deeper question. One of the things I appreciate about No More Mr. Nice Guy is that it challenges men to stop performing goodness. That is important. Because many men are not actually living from principle. They are living from approval. They want to be seen as good. They want to be seen as safe. They want to be seen as agreeable. They want to avoid being judged, rejected, or abandoned. So they shapeshift. They become whatever the room rewards. But that is not character. That is adaptation without frame. And this connects directly to becoming the operator. The operator is not a man who waits for everyone else to define him. He observes, he evaluates, he chooses, he acts with intention. He does not abandon himself just to keep the environment calm. And that is where many nice guys lose themselves. They are reactive. They react to disapproval. They react to tension. They react to women's emotions. They react to authority figures. They react to the fear of being disliked. They may look calm on the outside, but inwardly they are being controlled by the room. That is not peace. That is emotional dependency. A man must learn to carry his own frame. That means he can be respectful without being submissive. He can be loving without being needy. He can be generous without trying to purchase affection. He can say no without feeling like he has committed a crime. He can want connection without surrendering his dignity to get it. That is the masculine upgrade this book points toward, but does not always fully develop. Now, another criticism I have is that the book can sometimes be read too narrowly as a relationship fix. A man may pick it up because he wants better results with women. He may want more attraction, more respect, more sex, or less conflict. And the book does speak to those areas. But from my perspective, the deeper issue is not just romantic relationships, it is identity. The nice guy pattern does not only show up with women, it shows up at work, it shows up with parents, it shows up with friends, it shows up in churches, families, leadership roles, and social circles. Anywhere a man feels he must hide his truth to remain accepted, the nice guy pattern can appear. So the question is not simply, how do I stop being a nice guy so women will desire me? The better question is, where have I abandoned my own frame in order to be approved of? That is the question that leads to real growth. Because if the man only changes his behavior to get a better result from women, he is still approval seeking. He has just changed the strategy. Instead of being the nice guy, he may become the performative alpha. But both are masks. One mask says, please like me. The other mask says, look how much I do not need you. Neither one is full masculine maturity. True maturity is when a man no longer needs the mask. This connects strongly to frame under fire because the nice guy often loses frame under emotional pressure. When conflict rises, he collapses. When someone is upset, he overexplains. When he feels rejected, he becomes resentful. When he feels ignored, he becomes passive-aggressive. When he feels desire, he becomes anxious. When his hidden contract is not honored, he feels betrayed, even though the other person may not have known there was a contract. That is why the nice guy pattern has to be examined honestly. It is not harmless. A lot of men think, I'm just being nice. What's wrong with that? But if underneath that niceness is resentment, fear, dishonesty, covert expectation, or suppressed anger, then it is not harmless. It creates instability, it creates confusion, it creates relationships where the man is not truly known because he's not truly honest. A man cannot be respected for who he is if he never reveals who he is. That is where the book has one of its strongest lessons. Stop hiding, stop pretending, stop saying what keeps the peace while burying what is true. But again, I would add this criticism, honesty must be governed by maturity. Some men discover a book like this and suddenly begin dumping every thought, every demand, every frustration, and every resentment on the people around them. That is not masculine honesty. That is emotional immaturity with a new vocabulary. A man should speak the truth, but he must also learn timing, tone, restraint, accountability, and ownership. Truth without discipline can become cruelty. Boundaries without wisdom can become selfishness. Confidence without character can become arrogance. So yes, a man must stop lying to be liked, but he must also learn how to live truthfully without becoming reckless. One of the biggest strengths of No More Mr. Nice Guy is that it gives men permission to have needs. That matters. A lot of men were trained to believe that having needs makes them weak. So they hide them. They pretend they do not want affection. They pretend they do not need encouragement. They pretend they do not care about respect. They pretend rejection does not hurt. They pretend they are fine. But buried needs do not disappear. They come out sideways. They come out as bitterness. They come out as withdrawal. They come out as sarcasm. They come out as control. They come out as quiet punishment. They come out as emotional distance. That is why a man must become honest with himself first. What do I want? What do I need? What do I fear? What am I pretending not to care about? Where am I giving from love and where am I giving to be rewarded? Those are powerful questions. But again, I would balance the book with a masculine principle from my own writing. A man's needs matter, but they do not excuse him from responsibility. Recognizing your needs is not permission to become self-centered. It is not permission to make everyone else responsible for your emotional world. It is not permission to demand that others heal what you refuse to govern. This is where self-command comes in. A man can acknowledge his needs while still carrying responsibility for his behavior. That is the difference between healing and entitlement. So, who should read No More Mr. Nice Guy? I think it is valuable for the man who has spent too much of his life trying to be liked. It is valuable for the man who avoids conflict and then wonders why he feels resentful. It is valuable for the man who gives too much and speaks too little. It is valuable for the man who is confused being agreeable with being loving. It is valuable for the man who wants to understand why his relationships feel one-sided, frustrating, or emotionally dishonest. But I would tell that man to read it carefully. Do not read it as permission to become selfish. Do not read it as permission to become cold. Do not read it as proof that kindness is weakness. Do not read it as a shortcut to attraction. Read it as a mirror. Read it as a challenge to become more honest. Read it as a call to develop boundaries, self-respect, and emotional maturity. Then bring it into a larger masculine framework. Because being not nice is not the goal. Being integrated is the goal. Being truthful is the goal. Being grounded is the goal. Being able to love without losing yourself is the goal. Being able to serve without resentment is the goal. Being able to stand alone without bitterness is the goal. As we close this episode of Let's Talk About the Book, I would say No More Mr. Nice Guy is an important book, but it is not a complete masculine philosophy. It identifies a real problem. Men who live for approval and call it goodness. It exposes hidden contracts. It challenges weak boundaries. It invites men into honesty. Those are powerful contributions. But it needs to be balanced with character, responsibility, discipline, service, and legacy. Because a man does not become whole simply by rejecting the nice guy role. He becomes whole by becoming truthful, disciplined, self-aware, responsible, and morally grounded. That is the real masculine journey. Not from nice guy to jerk, not from approval seeker to manipulator, not from agreeable to arrogant, but from hidden to honest, from resentful to responsible, from reactive to governed, from needy approval to grounded self-respect. So the question this book leaves us with is not simply, am I too nice? The better question is, where am I being dishonest in order to be accepted? That is where the work begins. This has been Let's Talk About the Book. Today we looked at No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover, a book about approval, boundaries, hidden contracts, honesty, and the journey from performing goodness to becoming whole. Until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and keep becoming.